Thank you for joining us in another session of Gentle Chair Yoga with Keith Beasley. Before we begin, I just wanted to acknowledge our friends at the Brookline Library for sponsoring this program and programs like it. I also wanted to thank our community partners, Brookline Interactive Group, who will be streaming this program through Facebook, YouTube, and local cable channel 3 on RCN and Xfinity. This program is also being streamed through the library's Facebook page as well. Would also like to read a quick disclaimer before we begin. Participation in this online yoga program could result in injury. Not all exercises presented here are suitable for everyone. These exercises are not intended to substitute for proper medical care or advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any exercise program. The creators, teachers, and producers assume no responsibility for injuries from participation in this program.
Hi, good morning. So let's start in our seated mountain pose. So seated, or you can do standing if you prefer. So mountain pose is our foundational pose in yoga. It's the pose that leads into good breathing. So a quick review is mountain pose. We have the three curves. The lumbar spine is going inwards towards the belly. Thoracic spine is going outwards, back behind you slightly, and the cervical spine right here is going inwards towards the face. We have two more students. And we focus on the breath here. And I like to close my eyes. If you're standing, you might want to keep your eyes open. But we want to focus on feeling the belly moving. We want to feel the breath. We want to feel something happening down here in the belly and also with the ribs expanding. So we feel it down around the navel first, and then as we breathe in, it's almost like a balloon filling with air. The balloon gets bigger and it gets bigger and it goes up into the ribs and the ribs expand. And then as we exhale, we soften. So imagine as you inhale that there's sort of a lifting up. You're getting lift from the breath in. And as you exhale, there's a softening and a releasing and a relaxing. And a nice grounding. Even feel the grounding in the feet and underneath the sitting bones in the chair. Sitting up nice and tall. Relaxing the shoulders. So imagine there's the energy is rising up, the movement is rising up the spine, and then as we exhale, the movement is moving down the outer part of the body. So it's kind of traveling in a circle. So imagine it's coming up in the middle, and then it's circling back around and going down the outside. You can even give a little sigh as you exhale if you like. Helps to relieve tension. Sigh of relief. And then let the arms hang down. Let the arms hang down slightly. So the fingers are just sort of hanging there. And feel the shoulders moving down away from the ears as the spine extends up. As you inhale and the belly gets bigger. So feel this movement here in the belly, back and forth. And we're settling into our chair, feeling grounded in the chair. So you have a couple of choices. You can slide all the way back in the chair and use the back of the chair for support without really leaning, no. I'm feeling the back of the chair, but I'm not leaning backwards like this. I'm just feeling it for support. Or if you lean, it's ever so slightly. The other choice is to turn sideways, or I'll turn sideways so you can see, is to be near the front of the chair. So notice now how the buttocks, the thighs are actually in space here, and the buttocks is actually in the chair, and I'm sitting up nice and tall. So your choice there about whether or not you use the back of the chair for support. You could save it for later if you wanted to. The only thing that's important here is that we need to be able to keep the spine lifted. We need to keep those 3 curves in the spine. So if you're starting to slump down, shoulders are rounding forward like this, then please use the back of the chair. Let's add a little bit of movement to it. Actually, let's do this. Before we do that, let's make the sound of Om. Let's begin. We're going to warm up anyway. So let's warm up the voice first, the vocal cords. This also helps to warm up the lungs a little bit more. We've been doing some deep breathing or some complete breath, we would call it, the diaphragmatic breathing. But let's make the sound of Om together. So remember, Om is, think of the shape of the mouth. Big ah, and then oh. So notice that shape's very different. Big, wide. So feel the lips moving and finally closing at the end. And then we take a natural, normal breath back in. So wherever you're at, just breathe in natural, normal, and make the sound Om. Relaxing the face and the eyes. Releasing the jaw, the tongue, and the throat. Releasing the shoulders down, elbows hang down. Last one. Noticing the silence. Now we'll bring the palms together and we'll inhale and we'll circle the arms. So this is our sun breath. Almost as if we're greeting the sun. So we're opening the heart as the shoulders roll open and back. So remember, you can adjust how big the circles are here. So depending on how your shoulders feel, we want to have the shoulders feeling okay about this. A little bit of effort is okay, but there shouldn't be any pain. There shouldn't be any forcing. We never force our body in yoga. And a couple more times. Notice if the chest is opening and coming forward. See if you can feel that as you're breathing in. So with this, the belly is getting a little bigger down here, ribs are expanding, and then the heart is lifting and coming forward. Kind of like one movement up the torso. And then let's bring the palms together. Pause there for a moment. As you exhale, release the hands down, flip the palms up, and then as you're inhaling, the hands float up. As the hands are floating up and you're inhaling, feel the soles of the feet gently pressing into the floor. That's our support. Feel the sitting bones pressing into the chair. That's our support. So it's like this lifting up from underneath to help us extend the spine up and to give us that feeling of lift, that feeling of rising, openness, buoyancy. And those are really good feelings because they make us feel good. They make us feel they make our psyche feel lifted. It's the opposite of like when we lay on the couch and we collapse because we're really tired. Usually everything collapses. Inhaling and then exhaling. Inhaling, a couple more. Exhale. One last one. Inhaling, exhaling, coming down. So a few cactus breaths. So for this one, make sure the shoulders are relaxed, extra relaxed here. So I'm going to drop my elbows. So as I breathe in, I'm still opening the heart. The shoulder blades are coming together. I'm feeling the tips of the shoulder blades starting to move together. They don't touch, but I feel them coming together behind me. Inhaling, exhaling. If that feels okay, you can lift your elbows ever so slightly, a little bit at a time, until you get to the point where the shoulders start to lift up, or you get to the elbows at the shoulders. Don't go any higher than that, please. And then let's bring the arms down. Let's roll the shoulders. So hopefully you're starting to warm up a little. And we'll roll the shoulders up and back, one shoulder at a time. Just letting the hands rest on the thighs here. So notice as I'm rolling the shoulders back, my hands are actually moving on the thighs just because they're attached. I'm actually not trying to move them. I'm focusing on moving my shoulder back. And as I move my shoulder back like this, the hand just follows because it's attached with the arm. I'm actually trying to relax my hands and my arms here. And then go the other way, circle the other way. And let's add a little bit more so you can continue. We would go backwards first. Let's add our swimming to it. And if this bothers your shoulders, try making the movement smaller, and you can always go back to what we just did before. So this is sort of the baseline here. And if you can do more without any discomfort or pain, you can make the hands are circling a little bit here. And you might even feel a little bit of movement in the abdomen across here, this diagonal movement. If you have trouble feeling it, you can put your hands, your fingertips, rest them on the belly. So right around the navel, and see if you can feel the belly moving. But you may be able to feel it just with your mind. So after a while, you get used to feeling stuff, feeling places that you haven't felt as connected to before. So our fingertips on the belly are a way to help us connect the mind with the muscles on the belly, so that we can feel them moving without actually touching them. I mean, the muscles here are touching. They're touching my clothes, and they're actually touching the skin. And when we move the skin and the muscles, we can feel that. It's easier in some areas than the other. Some parts of the body we feel easily moving, and we're going to go the other way now. So we're swimming the other way, a little crawl stroke here, letting ourselves turn. So think more about the turning now, reaching out and across to the other side of the body. So we cross, this is the midline right here. We cross the midline and we come down the outside of the leg. We're going to do that a few times. And there's some ease here. I'm letting the body turn, but there's no forcing. It's nice and it feels nice. It feels nice. And if you keep practicing this on a regular basis, it gets easier over time. You get a little bit more turning. The turning becomes the body moves more freely. The things that we practice regularly become habits for our body. So anybody who likes to walk, it gets to be such a habit that you really don't want to give it up. Actually, you shouldn't give it up. But it gets so, and it gets easier. It's like having a cup of coffee. It's something that it becomes so ingrained in us that it is, I guess we expect it. And I think that, with exercise, it's it's a good thing to expect some exercise, some movement, and sitting up nice and tall. Come back to mountain pose for just a few breaths. Feel the feet pressing. Feel the spine lengthening up from the sitting bones. Feel the back of the neck lengthening. Try not to let the chin lift up. Sometimes it wants to lift up. And then relax and soften the shoulders. So let's do a little more warm up. We're going to slide forward in the chair now, and we're going to start to circle around like this. So starting with small circles. So you can't see the circles that I'm making because they're in the same plane as the floor. But I'm leaning forward and leaning to the side and leaning back. And the leaning comes from down here where the hips are. So that as I fold forward, you can see this. As I fold forward, notice the spine is still relatively straight like this. I'm not rounding like this. I'm lifting the heart as I lean forward. And the same thing on the sides. I'm lengthening, maybe not 100% evenly, not 100% evenly, but I'm trying to keep the spine evenly lifted. So I'm not collapsing on one side like this. And when I go back, it's the same thing. I'm trying to keep the spine relatively straight. So I really have to firm up the belly. So your belly needs to be nice and firm here. You can always rest your hands here as you're going around, and you'll feel it softens when you come forward. And then as you lean back, the belly has to firm up. Let's go the other way. The bigger the circles, the more challenging it becomes. So if you want more of a challenge, make sure you're all the way in the front of your chair and have lots of room behind you, and you can lean back. Just make sure there's no pain or discomfort, especially in the lower back here. We don't want the lower back to collapse here. So if you're getting collapsing in the lower back right here, as you lean back, then make the circles smaller. So a big circle would be like this. My shoulders moving around like my hand is. A smaller circle would be like this. Almost like when you spin a top, and in the beginning, the top stays kind of almost straight up and down. And then as the top begins to lose its energy, it starts to lean to the side until finally at the end, it's totally leaned over. And then sitting up nice and tall. And let's rock the feet and the hands here. You can scoot back and use the back of the chair here if you want. So we're rocking the feet and the hands. So like a rock, so our feet, the bottoms of our feet are like a rocking chair. And the hands are kind of moving in the same, they're not on anything, but there's this sort of curve in the hands. And I can even add a little bit with the elbows. And imagine as you go forward that you lean slightly forward and lift up. So it's almost as if I'm going to stand up out of the chair, and then when I go back, I'm going to lean back slightly. So I'm going to go forward and back, keeping the lift in each direction. So the heart is still lifting. Heart is still lifting, which means I really have to rely on the abdomen, not just the back. We tend to sit so much that our abdomen becomes weak, and our back does all the work, and then we end up with back problems. And so let's see. So we did. Oh, let's do the slide all the way back in the chair, please. We'll do the ankles and the wrists. We'll do them together. Just starting with the ankles, though. Resting the hands on the knees if you need it. So remember, the knees don't move. They stay exactly where they are. Notice only the ankles are moving. Even if it's a small movement, that's okay. And then we can add the wrists to it. And then please go the other way. And see if you can time or synchronize where the fingers and toes are pointing. So we want a nice rhythm here. You could even slow down a little. If you can become more meditative, notice your breathing. As you slow down, still sitting up tall. If it's challenging to stay sitting up tall, you could work with one leg at a time. And then you'd have to change legs. And then go ahead and rest both feet, sitting up nice and tall. We're going to do some leg lifting, starting with just flexing the ankle. So I'm going to lift up one foot, flex the ankle, looks like this from the side. Still want to keep the spine lifted. So if this is super easy, you could slide away from the back of the chair and work on keeping the spine lifted. You could even put the hands here and lift up. In yoga, we call this Dandasana or half Dandasana. Just one leg lifted. Dandasana staff pose would be with both legs straight out. So, and then do the other side. One of the things you can do is, I notice my left side doesn't work as well. Try to imagine what it feels like on the right, and then do the same thing on the left. Right? Because I'm right-handed, so there's a tendency for my right side to work better. That's normal. That's normal for most people, unless you're ambidextrous, or, I mean, there are people that can do both, but we actually have a favored side. And let's lift up and then down. So when I lift up, I'm bringing the toes back and extending the heel away. Bringing the toes back, heel is moving in the other direction. So there's a lengthening along the whole back of the leg. I'm going to alternate legs like this. And if you'd like, you could add, if you want more of a challenge, you can add the arm like this. Or you could even just add the elbow if you wanted, if the shoulders don't allow extending all the way up. And see if you can time the movement so the arms and the legs are working together. Going up at the same time. As I come up, I lift, pressing the other foot into the floor. So I get support from that other leg. You'll notice that contraction in the quadricep. Actually, contraction in both quadriceps, because what happens is when I lift up this one, the quadricep is contracting, and so is this one when I press the foot down. But one is an isometric, and the other one would be like a dynamic. So the muscle is moving more. Isometric, the muscle doesn't really move very much. And if you need to, please use the back of the chair, especially for this, so that you can get lift. Sometimes the way to teach ourselves the feeling of lift, so we need to be able to feel that we're getting lift in order to get the feedback that we need to know what it actually feels like to lift up. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but if we're not able to do something and feel it, then it's hard to repeat it. It's hard to repeat it. It becomes, moving the body ultimately becomes a, maybe not automatic, but something that is not it's more qualitative than quantitative. It's not analytical, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It's more like we feel it, like if we were a dancer. Imagine you're a dancer. Most of us love to dance. We probably haven't done it very often recently, but for those that like to dance, remember what it was like. And you feel like you're dancing, lifting up, maybe even a smile on the face. And you could even close the eyes and imagine you're dancing. We won't put on any music, but a little music might be nice. Now let's lower down. And then we'll do the opportunity for both legs here if you want. So both legs is like this. Both toes come back, the heels press away, and then I come down. But if that's overdoing it, if you get any pain in the lower back or you are getting so breathless, because this requires a lot more strength, a lot more effort. We don't want any pain. I still need to be able to keep the spine lifted. So if you put your heart on your chest, and when you lift your legs up, your chest sags like this, then you should go back to just doing one and see if you can lift the heart that way. Lifting the heart. And that's going to keep the abdomen nice and firmed up. So we want to have that firm abdomen. And if that's easy, you could use the arms as well, like we did. So this is our full staff pose like this, with the legs lifted. Normally we do that on the floor, and the backs of the legs would be resting on the floor. And we would extend the spine up, and then bringing the arms and the legs down. Sitting up nice and tall. And let's see, so we've done the lower part of the body and part of the upper. So let's put the hands on the knees, flip them over, and then touch the shoulders just to warm up the elbows, and then start to lift the elbows, but keep touching the shoulders. So they're slowly rising up, and then maybe the hands or fingertips are touching behind you with the shoulder blades. And then we're going to slowly bring them down. See if you can find some ease here. So if the shoulders, we don't want them, well, they move up a little bit because they have to, but we don't want them way up towards the ears where it's uncomfortable, and then lower down. Just roll the shoulders. And then the other way. So we do the neck. Starting out, let's massage the ears here. So remember, I'll turn sideways so you can see. We can start down at the earlobes, give them a little massage, and then right after you give them a little squeeze like that, a little sort of like this, let them slide through as you gently pull the fingers away. Like you're working with some dough, you're stretching some dough. It's a pie crust, the edges of a pie. You just made a pie crust, you're working on the edges around the rim of the pie pan. Now, pie would be nice. I don't really have any. Sitting up nice and tall, and then lifting the chin. And lower down. And going back and forth here with some ease, trying to keep the neck relaxed here, letting the weight of the head do the work. And then I'm going to lift up, and I'm going to go from side to side. So the ear gets closer to the shoulder here. Ear gets closer to the shoulder. You could put your pillow like this if you wanted. Inhaling up, exhaling down, relaxing. See if you can remember to keep the spine lengthened. Perhaps not as much effort as you normally would, but we always want to be lengthening the spine when we bend, because we get better bending that way. We get more space between the vertebrae, and that translates into easier movement of the spine. And then one more on each side. And then inhaling, coming up, and then turning from side to side. Add the arm to it. Back and forth, and then the other arm, the other hand. And now go ahead and take that hand and rest it on your opposite, either shoulder or arm or elbow, depending on what you can reach. If you have trouble reaching across to the shoulder, go a little lower and work with the arm, the lower part of the arm that's not quite so far to the side. And then sit up nice and tall, and then turn towards the hand that's reached across. And then turn back the other way. So we're going to nice and easy back and forth. No forcing. And then we'll release that, sit up nice and tall, lift up the other arm, and back and forth. And then we'll reach across with that hand somewhere on the either the shoulder, the upper arm, the elbow, so it's comfortable. You want to feel like it's comfortable. And then inhale, sit up nice and tall, and then turn towards the arm that's crossed over towards the other side. And take a couple of breaths here. Extending the spine each time you inhale, and then softening as you exhale. So this is a little turn or a little twist to the side. And then release and come on down and bring the palms together. We'll inhale and exhale. And exhale. Cactus breath. So if we were to lift the elbows up even with the shoulders, we'd look like a cactus like this. Adjust the height of the elbows so that the shoulders feel okay. And then if you like, you can give yourself a little hug, crossing one arm over the other. And depending on how you're feeling, how your back is feeling, you may reach all the way back to the shoulders, or you may just reach the upper arms, or even the elbows. So you can work. And you could even try, if you were down at the elbows, do it a couple of times at the elbows, and then try the upper arms. Notice how I'm switching one hand one time, and the other arm is on top the other time. You could even work up and down the arms. So the shoulders, upper arms, elbows, elbows, upper arms, and shoulders. So it's just a little different. Just change the focus just a little bit. Elbows, upper arms, shoulders. And actually, let's do opposite shoulder, and then upper arms, and lastly the elbow, and come down. Let's roll the shoulders a few times. And come forward again. Let's circle around. Circling around. And this time, as you circle, press the feet down and lift the spine up. So feel the feet and the sitting bones pressing in. Almost like I'm going to try to stand up, especially as I'm leaning to one side. So there's a movement up the spine. And please go the other way. And then sitting up nice and tall. So let's bend the spine in 6 ways. So this is a good practice to do. We can remember to do this every day or every other day to build some suppleness in the spine. And remember to, we're working on ease of movement, not big movement, ease of movement. I'm going to rest my hands. I'm going to sit in my, my mountain pose near the front of the chair, so I can feel my sitting bones. I can give them a wiggle. I can feel my feet. I can tap the feet a few times, make that connection with the soles of the feet, and then rest my hands on the knees. And I'm going to inhale the heart forward. Inhale the heart forward. Turn sideways so you can see. Notice the arms stay relatively straight. The shoulders don't really even move very much. It's almost like this stays in place. The arm and the shoulder, and notice how the heart moves a little bit forward, so you can see the chest peeking forward from the side, and then the shoulder blades move back. trying to not to get too much rocking in the pelvis. A little bit of rocking is okay. We want to avoid this big drop in the lumbar spine. It's not really great for the lumbar, that big curve in the back. And we always work on balancing ease and effort, and also flexibility and strength. So while we want the spine to be undulating and flexible, we don't want it to be so flexible that we end up with instability. So if we get too much flexibility, we end up with instability. And if we get too much strength, we end up with lack of mobility. So we want to find a balance so that we end up with a nice functional back. So when we move our arms and legs, if our back doesn't move well, it's hard to move the rest of the body. Remember, everything's attached. So that's number 1 and 2 on bending the spine. We're going to bend the spine number 3 and 4. Sorry about that. And that's sideways. So we're going to the sides like this. So starting off, just leaning a little bit. You could also reach up. This helps to get length in the side of the body and actually the side and also the spine. And then as we lean over, there's some evenness in both sides of the body, even though one side is more open than the other. We want to make sure there's some evenness on the short side as well, some length on the short side. And that might mean not leaning over so far. It's hard to lean way over without collapsing one side. So think about going up first and opening, big opening in the side, as long as it feels okay. We want it to feel okay. Breathing in and in. This opening in the ribs helps us to breathe, helps the lungs to expand with more ease. So we get better lung power when there's room between the ribs, or when the ribs can expand. The muscles that hold the ribs together, the intercostal muscles, if they don't move, then the ribs don't move. And if the ribs don't move, the lungs can't expand as much. And then we'll go ahead and bring the arms down, and sitting up nice and tall, take a couple of breaths. And then the last one is turning. So begin with the hands right here, and go ahead and turn with following the elbow going back towards the wall behind you. So think about bring your attention right to the elbow, and just move the elbow back, and then bring the elbow forward, and then the other side. Elbow back, elbow forward, elbow back, elbow forward, elbow back, elbow forward. And now notice as you move the elbow back, if you can feel the abdomen turning. Notice if you feel the abdomen turning with the elbow moving back. So that's what we want. We want the movement, the turning to come down here in the abdomen. So it's not so much a shoulder, or it's not a neck movement. Sometimes people turn the neck, they want to look behind them. It's really about getting the abdomen to move, and when the abdomen moves, we're getting more movement in the thoracic and the upper lumbar spine. And we want more movement, ideally in those parts of the spine, because the neck's easier to move. And for many people, the lumbar, the part of the spine down around the navel, behind the navel, is easier to move because it's just easier. And then go ahead, and the next time you turn to the side, rest the palm on the outside of the opposite knee. So you're continuing to face towards the side of the room, or kind of to the side, kind of between the front and the side, maybe a 45-degree angle. and take a couple of breaths here. And as you inhale, sit up nice and tall. And as you exhale, just relax. Don't try to turn anymore. Soften the abdomen, soften the shoulders, soften the neck and the face. So there's a whole softening up and down the body without actually any more turning. So this becomes, we call it a passive turning or a passive twist, but it's teaching those muscles to relax even when they're turned, even when they're extended. You want to get them to relax and soften. And then inhale, sit up nice and tall. We'll turn back. First the head turns, and then bring the hand back to the opposite knee, and then bring the hand back around, let the lower body turn back. So we'll inhale and come back to the elbow. Elbows moving back, and then we're going to go to the other side. So as you get to the other side now, go ahead and drop the hands as you extend the spine up. So there's this, hands are moving down, spine is lifting up, and the opposite palm is on the outside of the opposite knee this time. So now I've turned to the other side. And my other hand is somewhere behind me on the chair, just for support. That back hand can be there for support of the arm and the shoulder. And inhaling, sitting up nice and tall. Exhaling, softening, releasing, letting go, relaxing. So let all the muscles along the abdomen and around the heart and the ribs and the shoulders soften and relax. And each time you inhale, extend the spine up just a little bit. So this is a micro movement, that feeling of lifting up. And then ease as we soften and let go and release. Give yourself permission to release the body's muscles. And then one more time, inhale and extend up. And then exhale, turn first the head back. And then bring that hand from the knee to the opposite knee. And then bring that back hand around to the front knee. And just turn to the opposite side for a moment. Just a little counter twist, and then come back. Roll the shoulders a couple of times, then back the other way. So sitting up nice and tall. So we're going to do a few standing poses today, and we're going to start with triangle pose since we're seated, and we'll do it first seated. But if you know triangle pose and you'd like to do it standing, you're certainly welcome to do that. And then I'll show it standing. So a triangle pose, we sit first in our mountain pose. So we always begin in mountain pose. Evenness on the left and the right side. And then for triangle pose, I'm going to step the feet apart like this. And sitting up nice and tall. Sitting up nice and tall. And then stepping the feet out like this. Or you could keep them bent. You could keep the knees bent if you want. And then extending the arms out to the side like this. Inhale here a couple of times. Remember your choice, legs straight, and you will have to move, towards the front of the chair if you're not, so that you've got room to actually, so the thighs aren't stuck on the seat of the chair. And then we'll exhale and let the hand come down, then inhale up, exhale down, and inhale up. Exhale down, and inhale up. Exhale down, and inhale up. One more time on each side. And then lower the arms down and bring the legs back. And before we stand up, or if you're going to stand up, so there's another pose called goddess pose. And we may get to that today, we might not, but the shape is like this. So let's try the shape at least for goddess pose. So goddess pose is with the thighs open here. So when we open the thighs, we started out like this. When we open the thighs, there's an opening here in the inner groin out, so that the knees and the toes are still pointed in the same direction. I'm not turning my knees here. the movement is coming in the groin and the hip. So, and if you have limitations, if you've had, say, a hip replacement, they'll tell you how far apart, what sorts of limitations. So please honor those limitations so you don't hurt yourself. But there's an opening in the groin, and then a sitting up nice and tall. So in goddess pose, we would actually not be sitting in a chair, we'd be sitting like this. But this is a nice way to sort of imitate that pose, and then having the arms out like this. So this is our goddess pose, with the elbows about shoulder width apart, no higher, but they could be a little bit lower. So if you find your shoulders are problematic, lower them down. You could even work like this if you wanted. The idea, though, is to be pressing the feet down and extending the spine up. So there's this lifting up, the heart's lifting up, and the feet are grounded. The feet are grounded here. So there's an isometric contraction in the quadriceps. So it's almost like I feel like I'm lifting up, and then go ahead and come back down. So let's do triangle pose. If you'd like to join me standing, or you can repeat it seated like we just did. My chair. So if you need, if any concerns about balance, please have your chair handy. And I'm going to, start in mountain pose. So begin in mountain pose, standing up nice and tall. And if you're standing, bend the knees slightly and straighten the legs. Bend the knees slightly and straighten the legs, feeling the buttocks contracting. So the buttocks are moving together, the quadriceps are firming up, the thighs are moving back. And if you need to, you can even put your fingers on your thighs. Feel the thighs contracting. Same with the buttocks. And then also the belly. So we want firmness, firmness, firmness. This whole area stabilizes. And if you notice, when you bend the knees, this is the beginning of what we would call chair pose, where we begin to sit down. So we've got our mountain pose, and we're going to step the feet apart. And if you're seated, you'll also step your feet apart. And we'll extend the arms out. Reach out between from middle finger to middle finger. So the tips of the middle fingers are reaching out to each side. And the outside edge of the foot is pressing down. So try not to let that lift up. Try to press the outside edge down and lift the inner arches. You can lift the inner arches by contracting the inner thighs here and help lift those arches up. So we want the feet to feel grounded. We want the feet to feel like they're supporting us. And then we're going to inhale, and then we'll gently fold to the side. Keeping the length on both sides as best you can. So you can try this too. Try reaching out with the side you're going to go to with the fingertips. Reach the fingertips out, and then bring the arm down, let it slide down, and then inhale and come back up. Inhale, reach out, and then let the arm go down. So what happens is when we reach out, we're keeping the underside where the ribs are extended. Inhale up to the other side. And then one more on each side if you want, or you can come back to mountain pose if you're ready. And then if your feet are wide apart, walking them back a little bit at a time is nice. Walking them back a little bit at a time is nice. And standing up nice and tall. Standing up tall, standing up tall. Let's do tree pose. So you could do it standing if you know how to do it. Or you can sit down, and we'll do it together standing, and then we'll come back, or sit seated, and then we'll do it standing. So seated, sitting up nice and tall, and then stepping the foot out. And notice that it's similar to what we did just before with the thigh, the groin open here. And then go ahead and lift the foot up like this. And feel a little balance feel a little off balance when you lift the foot up. So we need to ground this side. So as you lift up, perhaps even just lifting the heel up, keeping the toes there. So the weight needs to shift more to this side. Press the sitting bones down, press the foot down. Same thing if you're standing. Feel the weight needing to shift to one side. And then you can go ahead and bring the sole of the foot either to the leg of the chair, or if you're standing, to the inner calf. And then extending the arms, extending the spine up, extending the arms out, and extending the crown of the head towards the ceiling. Crown of the head towards the ceiling. Feel firmness in the leg, the foot that's pointed straight ahead. Gently press that down. Or if you're standing, feel grounded in that foot and that leg. Extending that leg up. Remember to breathe. And then go ahead. You can bring the arms down, and you can bring the foot back. Do the other side. Inhale, sitting up nice and tall. And now we'll step the foot out like this. And notice also how there's a tendency for the body to follow the leg as we turn it out. Go ahead and turn the body back so it's facing more towards the front, or towards in this direction, so that we're not actually turned sideways. We're turned back a little bit without forcing though. And then go ahead and lift up, lift that foot up again. Feel the connection with the other buttock and the foot on the side that's not lifted. And then bring the sole of the foot onto the inside of the chair or the inside of the calf. And then when you're ready, you can lift the arms up, extend the spine up, open the arms, open the chest. So broaden as you breathe in. Remember to breathe. Find a little bit of ease as you breathe in and extend. One more breath. And then as you come down, slowly lower the arms and then bring the foot down and back to the front. So you're invited to repeat the same pose in the chair if you don't want to stand. And otherwise you can stand, and we'll do the pose, tree pose standing. So this is one where we often need help with balance. So have your chair. If you need more help, have it in front so you can use two hands or two sets of fingers. If you need less help, then you might have it on the side with just one hand. So we'll inhale, mountain pose, and we'll step the foot out like to the side. Just like before, we open the groin, make sure that the front of the body is facing towards me, towards the screen. And then whenever you're ready, press that foot, the foot on the standing leg, or the foot on the straight foot, the foot that's still straight. Press the foot down, extend the leg, extend the spine, and then go ahead and bring the sole of the foot on the inside of the leg. And extend the arms up. Arms are reaching up, spine's extending up, gaze is lifting up. Breathing. Find some ease here. A little bit of ease in this beautiful tree pose. And you can come down whenever you want. You could always come down and come back up. And then we'll lower the arms down and slowly lower the foot down. Come back to the middle. Just swing the hands for a moment. So this is just a little turning. So we want to become even again here. Even with the on the feet. And standing up nice and tall, mountain pose, and then stepping the foot out. So most of the weight is on the straight leg, or on the side that the foot is pointed straight ahead. And then go ahead and bring the sole of the foot on the inside of the calf. And whenever you're ready, you can add the arms, however you like your arms. Extending the spine. Perhaps looking up slightly towards the sky. Little raising the gaze, raise your gaze, raise your thoughts. Remember to breathe. Each time you breathe in, extend the spine up, or feel just that little bit of lift, almost like you're flying up. Kind of have wings here with the arms, if your arms are extended. And then go ahead and slowly lower down and swing the hands. And so for this one, so if we're standing, we're going to stand behind our chair like this, and we're going to step to open the front of the hip like this, and to lift up, perhaps with the arm, or perhaps with both hands on the chair, and lifting the heart. Notice the shape here. So the curve is now on the back side of the body, or the concavity is on the back side, versus the concavity on this side. So when I have my foot forward, my curve is here, and I have my foot back. So when we sit, the curve is in the front. So this helps to counteract the curve, standing up nice and tall. And if you're doing this seated, it's not so different. The shape is the same, sliding to the side of the chair, and then stepping the foot back so that it's comfortable. Knee is comfortable here. So it depends on your knee and your hip, and then extending up like this. So notice the shape is now, the curve is now behind me, like this. It can even be nice to, if you use the arm up and down, as you inhale, the arm sweeps up, I get length, I get movement upwards, and then I exhale and I relax and soften. I give things a chance to come back. And let's do the other side. So we'll switch feet. We'll step the other foot back if you're standing. And the shape, think about the shape here. The shape is the same standing or seated. Lifting so that the curve is behind me. Curve is behind me. And I shouldn't have any, we don't want any pain in the back, in the knee, in the hip. And be mindful of your any limitations that you have for your knees or your hips, like this. You could even alternate arms if you wanted. Thinking inhaling, lifting up and extending, exhaling, coming down. Inhaling, thinking lifting, lifting, lifting up, like a really like a dancer. And then coming back down. And then stepping forward. And let's sit back down. Now let's do a couple of leg lifts before we warm down. See if the leg lifts, see how they feel now compared to when we did them earlier. Keeping the spine lifted though. So if you need to use the back of the chair, please do that. Please slide all the way back so you feel supported. Perhaps there's a little bit more, we may feel like we're a little more tired, but you might feel a little more ease of movement a little bit, so that things move more freely, but the muscles might be more tired. And that's what happens, right? When we exercise, the muscles tend to get fatigued, but oftentimes the movement it feels a little looser. Things become a little, they move more freely. And then we're going to do some sun breaths, inhaling and exhaling. And the same thing here. See how it feels compared to when we did this at the beginning of class. See if it feels any more ease of movement here. Ease of movement. Ease in the shoulders. Ease in the neck. Maybe that little soft feeling in the face and the eyes. And we'll go the other way. Bring the palms together. Exhale, drop the hands, and then come on up. And then one more. We're going to do our Shavasana next. So sitting up nice and tall, and at the same time being supported by the chair behind us. And resting the hands wherever's comfortable. In the lap, on the knees, on the thighs. Just find a nice comfortable spot for the hands, please. If you have glasses on, you may want to take them off. Helps the face to relax. So remember, for our Shavasana, we continue, we'll continue past the end of class. Once you get into Shavasana, feel free to stay there for a little while. So 5 or 10 minutes if you have time. And see how you feel after. If the mind is a little calmer, see if the body is a little more relaxed. We'll stay together for another minute or so, focused on the breath, feeling the belly moving with the breath. And we'll tap the bell to signal the end of the class for today. Each time we inhale, we feel a little lift in the body. And each time we exhale, we allow softening in the face and the eyes, relaxing the jaw and the tongue and the throat, letting go of the shoulders, the arms, the hands, softening the hips and the buttocks, relaxing the knees and the ankles and the feet and the toes. And if there's any part of the body that needs relaxing, just bring your attention there and invite it to relax. Think relaxing thoughts for that part of the body. Feeling that part of the body relaxing, or even imagining that part of the body relaxing. It all helps. It all influences and helps us to relax. So please continue with your Shavasana, and I'll see everyone next time. Namaste.